It feels like the book publishing industry has been going through major shifts and has been on a roller coaster ride since 2020, perhaps even before. And for any author who's interested in getting published in the near future, it helps to stay on top of what's going on in the publishing industry. This is doubly important if your intention is to traditionally publish, especially at a Big 5 publishing house. So as we look ahead into 2024, I wanted to share some of my personal predictions on where the industry can go in the next year, and certain things that we should all be looking out for. What's on the top of everyone's minds in the publishing industry, and how is it going to impact authors? If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a professional developmental book editor, and my background is in the traditional publishing space, specifically working in the editorial team at Random House, as well as at a top literary agency. So that's where I'm coming from with my insights and tips. If you're interested at all in the publishing industry, or you're working on a book that you possibly want to publish one day, I recommend subscribing to my channel. Every week, I either talk about the publishing industry like today's video, or I do a deep dive with tactical writing tips. So I would love to have you join our amazing community of more than 30,000 amazing authors. Before we get into my 3 major predictions for publishing in 2024, please do me a really small favor and hit the thumbs up button. It is a silly thing, but really helps out my channel a lot. Thank you so much. The first major prediction I have for book publishing in 2024 is that we're going to have more debates about AI. This comes as a shocker to no one. And when it comes to the intersection of AI and book publishing, we still have way more questions than answers at this point. The US Copyright Office has said that for a work to be copyrighted, it has to have human authorship. But beyond that, there is still a lot of gray area and muddy waters that need to be figured out. And publishers really need to get ahead of this and figure out what role, if any, AI has in the book publishing space. Now, as a traditionally old-fashioned industry full of people who value human composition, many, as you are likely aware, in the publishing industry reject the use of AI and claim that all books should be produced solely by human authors. There are some, however, who feel that it's inevitable that AI is going to become a part of every aspect of our lives, book publishing included. So we need to figure out how and if AI models are going to contribute to our literary world and what that really looks like. Here are some specific questions that I've seen discussed among publishing and writing communities. Will publishers ban authors from using generative AI to compose any parts of their book? And how would they enforce this if so? If, on the other hand, they deem that generative AI is allowed to be used, is that going to be disclosed to readers? And there's been a big debate over AI models being trained on copyrighted material, including books. I did a whole other video that got into authors' responses to learning that their works were being used to train AI. So definitely check that out if you're not up to speed on these conversations. It's inevitable that AI is going to come up more and more and more in the intersection of publishing. And I've even seen a few literary agents add a question in their query forms asking if AI has been used to generate any part of the author's work. So if you're looking to go the traditional publishing route, you are likely going to have some version of this conversation. Before we get into my next 2 predictions, I wanted to let you know about some exciting resources I have available for authors. You may already be familiar with my Chapter Break newsletter, where I interview publishing industry insiders and successfully published authors. And I've launched an entirely new series where I give deep dive editorial insights from my experiences as a professional developmental book editor. If any of that interests you, head down into the description below and check out Chapter Break. As a bonus for signing up to my newsletter, you'll receive my free story self-assessment worksheet, which is a resource I designed to help you look at your story from a new perspective and identify what could be improved on the next draft. I'm really excited to explore different forms of content in my newsletter series, and I've gotten amazing feedback from all of you, so please keep it coming and let me know what you think. My next publishing prediction for 2024 is that literary agents will be even more selective. Traditional publishing has always been highly competitive, so that's not news. But the truth is that now might be the toughest time ever to query literary agents. That's because the book publishing industry has seen a lot of personnel shifts in the past 3 years specifically, that has resulted in both editors at publishing houses and literary agents feeling overworked and overwhelmed. Specifically, many of the major publishing houses have gone through rounds of layoffs, and many of these impact the editorial teams. And with leaner teams means more work on everyone. And that situation can trickle down and affect how much work an editor can give a manuscript prior to publication. Now more than ever, it's easier for a literary agent to sell a manuscript to a publishing house that is pretty close to being publishable. One that needs a ton of work and rounds of revision is likely going to be a harder sell. So in this landscape where publishing professionals are totally slammed on both sides of the industry, it's likely that we're going to see literary agents continue to be even more selective with the projects that they decide to take on. They're each going to have their own standard for what they're looking for, but above all else, it's likely that they're going to be looking for very high quality manuscripts. I anticipate that this competitive publishing landscape could have some downstream effects in authors looking to alternative publishing methods via small presses or indie presses that don't require agents to submit to. And we might see more and more hybrid authors who self-publish and traditionally publish, or publish with a smaller press and then work with a Big Five house. In this landscape, though, I also am fearful that there may be more and more scams, specifically targeting authors who are querying and are looking for a publisher. I have some other resources into scams to watch out for, so check that out if you're worried about this happening to you. So if you're a querying author, what should you do, knowing that the publishing industry seems to always be on the brink of its next crisis? I don't think the publishing industry is going anywhere, and I do think the Big Five are going to continue to dominate the market and put out many of the most well-known best-selling books. And I do think, genuinely, that there is room for debut authors to break in. I saw it when I worked in the industry, and I'm still seeing it today. But if traditional publishing is your goal, my advice would be to do everything in your power to make sure that your manuscript is as strong as it can possibly be prior to sending it out to agents. That's going to give you the best shot. My final book publishing prediction for 2024 is that readers are going to find new ways to engage with books. In the past, readers would discover books either by browsing their local bookstore or by going to the library, and while that physical component is still certainly a part of the publishing industry, we're seeing more and more sales dominated by e-commerce. But I personally feel that some of the traditional advertising and publishing methods, like paid ads, or reviews in publications, even bestseller lists, are maybe not as impactful as some other methods of getting a book in readers' hands. They're not quite pulling the weight that they used to in the discoverability landscape. For example, this year we saw so many books rise to prominence, rise to bestseller status via book talk alone. And that goes for books published by Big Five houses and self-published books. And organized book clubs like Read with Jenna or Reese's Book Club are still driving tons of sales. Authors are also exploring ways of connecting with their readers via content over the long term, not just when their new book is about to launch. They're starting newsletters, they're starting podcasts, many of which have a lot of success. So I think what this trend all boils down to is readers getting book recommendations and making their book purchasing decisions based more on trust over sheer serendipity at a bookstore or over clever ads. Readers want book recommendations from someone whose opinion matters to them, someone that they feel connected to, even if they've never met them. So if you are trying to engage with readers or figure out how to best publicize your book, I recommend thinking about how you can put yourself in front of your readers in this trustworthy way and establish this type of relationship. What do you think about these book publishing trends? I'm excited to see how everything shakes out in the new year and see if they end up coming true or not. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my predictions, or if you have any of your own. And if you want some more insight into your publishing options going into 2024, I recently published a video on traditional publishing versus self-publishing and factors you should consider, so definitely check that one out. Before you head out, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed today's video. Hit that subscribe button to join our amazing community, and don't forget to check out all the resources on my newsletter, Chapter Break, and grab your free story self-assessment worksheet All those links are in the description below. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.